Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Watching Men. My name's Carl.
And I'm Mark, and what a week it's been, because, as I always like to do a bit of sports news, Carl, and I know you follow the world of wrestling so tightly.
Vividly.
Well, I know. See, so what are your thoughts about Nia Jax once again causing an injury to Kairi Sane right after she had a Zoom call with loads of WWF talent to say, well, if Ronda Rousey, ex-UFC fighter, ever steps into the ring again, I'll show her what an injury is, because she's been blaming Ronda Rousey for working sloppily, and yet Nia Jax has sort of been injuring quite a few people. I mean, what's your take on that this week then, Carl?
So we've got some shows to talk about this week. Returning to reality for a moment.
How dare you, the world of scripted sports entertainment is reality.
So instead of doing our usual news thing, we thought we'd actually get back to what The Watching Men is meant to be actually about, because we've actually watched some stuff. And this week we actually have both watched some stuff. It's amazing.
And I've even done video clips if Carl's got them there, which is going to make good content for the podcast.
Exactly. So if you're listening to the audio-only version of the podcast, make sure you check out the video version as well, because you'll be able to actually see Mark did some work. I'm as shocked as everybody else at this point
in time. You would not believe, right, I upgraded to Catalina, and that has been the single biggest thing I regret, because normally in Mojave, I want to do a screen recording of Netflix to get some images. Not a problem at all. And Apple have locked it all off, all down. I had to jump through some massive hoops to get these clips, and I've actually cropped them and trimmed them. I think I've cropped them, and yeah, we'll see. But first up, should we start with Space Force?
Yeah, why not? Why the devil not? So let's have a look at Space Force. So here we go. Space Force. It's comedy on Netflix. Steve Carell star. By the way, I'm afraid we're going to get into spoilers straight away, unfortunately. So, if you want to see these shows and you don't want to really spoil them, we'll actually, I don't know, we'll stay away from spoilers at the start, but as we go along, we'll get deeper into spoilers. Hopefully, Mark won't forget and then create a massive spoiler to start with, but who knows? But
not like I've got a track record of that, Carl. I don't know what you mean.
So obviously, Space Force is obviously because everyone relates Space Force with Trump, because apparently he was the one that came out and went, Space Force, fantastic idea to put the a military wing up into space to protect satellites and stuff moving forward. I don't know. Depends what you think about that. I have no clue. I don't care. It's totally up to you. There was a lot of stuff when this came out and announced and everything. The actual Space Force, this is, because they used their insignia, and people were saying like, "Oh, Star Trek should sue them," forgetting, of course, that Star Trek based their symbol on the Air Force and NASA back in many years ago. Forgetting that small point, but there you go.
Oh, that's when you've got the internet and Wikipedia.
Exactly. Doesn't matter anyway. But no, so there was a branch of the Air Force that was supposedly targeted or sectioned off to look after this kind of stuff. It wasn't called Space Force, it was called something else. I can't remember what it was called. Anyway, so this has come out on Netflix. And I don't know what people fall about it. Apparently, it's struggling a bit in the ratings on Netflix.
It got slammed critically wise, didn't it? Yes. The critics sort of came out and went, "Oh no, this is yet another abject failure." Because I think we've spoken about this before. I think for any new comedy to come out or any new show to come out after a lot of shows have finished, like Westworld and, well, okay, not maybe Westworld, Game of Thrones. I think there's that big expectation of everything's got to be a sensational hit straight away, or, oh, well, we'll see. I mean, look at The Morning Show. I love that from season 2 onwards. I gave it a chance, and I remember getting home on a Friday and wanted to do it, which leads us into this, because Steve Carell's character in The Morning Show was a bit creepy. Is that probably a little bit more than that? But what they did in Space Force was straight away establish him as upright, forthright, as clean cut as you could possibly get. And I just thought that was such a interesting stark contrast from how the morning show ended to his, I suppose this is his latest vehicle. What I will say about Space Force, it's got quite a good set of characters in it. But I was really surprised to see John Malkovich in it. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, and being funny as well.
It had its moments. I wouldn't say there's a few times when I've gone. I haven't exactly bent over.
No,
it's no Office. It's none of Carell's brilliant funny work, but I think the way he plays the colonel. So he's been promoted and now he's in charge of Space Force, and he's very level and straight as possibly can be, which has got resonance of his other characters of The Office, but there's something a bit lacking in his character. But Malkovich, being Malkovich, is brilliant. And when the two of them, I think they separated them for a bit, but then halfway through the show, they did a lot more interactions. I think they must have tweaked the script a little bit after seeing how that chemistry worked.
Well, I think it was the like I say, as you say, he was very straight-laced, and of course you've got the military wing, and then you've got the intellectual wing, and they shouldn't get on. That's the whole point. Like one's a pacifist. John Malkovich character is a pacifist. He doesn't believe in anything war in space at all, and that soon changes because he sees what happens where other countries that don't want to obey the rule of the moon or space or whatever.
There's a brilliant bit with China where I can't remember Malkovich's character goes ballistic at the screen. There are some nice moments in it. There's just, I can't put myself on. It's just something that stopped that instant, oh, this is a classic sort of thing. And I don't know what it is. And I think it's because I think they sort of spent their budget on everything in the first half. And then in the second half, you're going, something's not quite right here. I mean, the plot overall isn't too bad, although, so we're introduced to Steve Carell and his family, and then the next sort of scene later, Lisa Kudrow, who plays, oh, blimey, what is it? I can't remember her name. It's shocking. I only watched it.
It's his wife.
Let me get the right thing. Gosh, she's far down in the credits as Lisa Kudrow.
Well, she's only really got a bit part. She's not a big player in it. There's only a few episodes she's actually in. 5,
according to IMDb. Look at me having researched. This is all. I'm almost. I wish I'd thought about it before you did it. But that's not the point. She's in jail all of a sudden after having this happy, idealistic family. She's in jail for 40 years, and there's been a bit of a thing on the old interweb saying, well, why? Why do we know? And it just seems bizarrely random. As do a few of the character hookups. Like, for example, you've got Captain Angela Ali, and then the weird, nerdy Dr. Chang Kai-Fang, who are complete polar opposites, and yet she goes from flying a helicopter to then somehow being in space by talking to this scientist guy about gardening. There was a lot of... There's MacGuffins, but then there's a lot of... I need to go... when you watch something, you think, have I missed something?
Yeah, I think you did miss something. That was the whole point, wasn't it? They thought they were not going to go into space for a long while, and then something happens, and they have to suddenly... they have to compress 4 years of training to like 36 hours. So that was the reason they all got press ganged into doing it, and that's why certain characters go up into space and who probably shouldn't be going up into space. And that's the whole point. The whole point is they think they've got all this time to develop this new wing of the military, and it turns out they've got no time whatsoever. And all that, like I say, I think I didn't know what to think of this. I didn't know if it was going to be like, because it's very heavily based on the introduction to Space Force, and it's something that's, like I say, is linked with Trump. I didn't know how they were going to play it, and I think initially some of the advertising, it made it look like, oh yes, they're going to take the mickey out of that administration, and it is there, but no more than I would say any other administration where they, because the chaos of government sort of thing that they put in. And they put in, there's some things in there like, oh, yeah, you got to do this because he tweeted it last night and stuff like this. So they make references to his tweet storms that he goes on. But there's nothing overly there. And I when it comes to the rating on Rotten Tomatoes, for example, I think that's why. I reckon the critics are hammering it because they don't get the Trump bashing that they want in these kind of things. Because, everyone, all the people involved are probably, maybe that was their goal. I don't know. But if that was their goal, they failed miserably because they actually set up, I feel for these people, these characters. They're sort of like, You grow accustomed to begin with. They're all sort of like one-dimensional, and you can sort of see where they're coming from, and you can see the conflicts as far as they're setting them up in a comedy. But then over time, you start to see the relationships blossom and meld, and sort of the respect come in for each other, and so you get the comedy. The comedy's still there underlying, and some of it's background comedy, and some of it's like toss away comedy, and it's just I just felt it was funny. I mean, it was not like an old Jim Carrey funny, like laugh out loud, but it's like amusing.
Well, I laughed at the tie bit where Carell's character is going for his conjugal visits. And then he's having a complete flap because Malkovich's character, Agent Mallory, isn't there to help him pick out a tie. Maybe that's just a sign that I'm getting a little bit old, that I find, someone struggling to pick out. I can relate to that, by the way, struggling to pick out a tie. But then there was a few, the characters came out, but then the bit where Carell's character goes from playing such a loving, doting husband, and then his wife is in jail, and then suddenly going on a date with another woman. There was no build-up to that. It was basically scene, and they've slept together. And that, to me, was like, hang on, this is supposed to be someone who loves his family, does everything straight-laced, and yet, just like that, he's having an affair. But it's not as bad as Snowpiercer, and I'm going to rip that bad boy apart.
Okay. No, I don't agree. I thought they did sell it up quite well, because he didn't just go, oh, okay, I'll go and have an affair. He really didn't want to do it. And this is, if you haven't seen the scene, it makes no sense to you, and I don't want to kind of spoil it too much. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. He's a straight-laced guy, and his wife's been sent to jail for 40-odd years, and he seems quite intent to wait for 40 years till they come out and carry on. Considering the fact he's quite old and he's probably never going to get to 40 years anyway. But and she's saying she wants to move on, and she's found love in prison, so he should do the same. And it's just that's quite a good scene. The way she said it was, "I'll always love you, but I don't want to. But I want to have a relationship." I thought the way that they handled that was actually quite well done. And considering whenever you look at Lisa Kudrow, you always still think Phoebe, even though she was really good, Romy and Michelle. I'm there are certain characters that have stepped out of that. Like Joey Tribbiani, Matt LeBlanc will always have a little bit of Joey, but when you look at Lisa Kudrow, I can't look at him in anything else and not see Joey. He does it on purpose. I swear to anything he's in, he does Joey-isms.
I will admit I liked him in the Top Gear. I know that's going to be controversial, but I thought he brought like a very subtle bit of comedy to that. Anyway, that's Top Gear.
Yes.
Now we've got two. Well, I know I'm watching the clock, and hang on.
No, hang on. So I mean,
my mouse just failed.
I was pleasantly surprised by Space Force. It does go to places where when it starts you don't think they're going to go plot wise, and it ends on a cliffhanger, which I don't really think it needed. But
no, and the cliffhanger as well was how he escaped and then evaded all the guards in a military building to get into a helicopter in a military building to then take off from a military building to then go to a prison to go and find his daughter that's round some meth heads whilst there's been a prison breakout as well. There's quite a lot of suspension of disbelief going on.
That was that last bit. In fact, I started thinking, is this a dream? I thought they were going to wake up and, it was all a dream.
But have we got time to? Have you got the cues clipped up?
I have. Yep. What one do you want?
Overall, I liked it, but there are some, as I've said, I think I mentioned it last week. There's some howlers of some editing scenes where it looks like they've reshot them, and I know that because I'm been a YouTuber and I'm looking into editing.
Okay.
I can watch a film. And as long as the film keeps my interest, I don't notice the special effects or the cuts. I might go, like that. But roll this clip. Roll number 1 for me.
Rolling VT.
roll the clip. So what we've got here is Malkovich and Carell standing at a diagonal. But look where Steve Carell is looking, way off to the side. Look at where Malkovich. Now, next scene, see those 3 people going past now in the background? Where have they suddenly gone? And then if you look at the next 2 people that come behind the character, I'm having to do this in a bit of real time, by the way, because what I'm seeing on my screen is different to yours. So no, they just don't. The way it's been edited together, you've got the 2 people walking in the background, and then the 3 people walking there. So what I think they've done is they've shot Malkovich, they've then shot Carell, and I think it's a shot here, and then green screened it together.
No, I don't think they've done that. I just think they've just done they've done a 1-2 shot. They might have possibly could have done that. I just think they've done a 1-2 shot and they've used extras in the background and they've misplaced. They've just not put them back in the right place. That's all. That's quite common. Actually.
All right, I might go to that. But so let's now move on to later on in the film because this bugs me. If you're going to do a show about space, right? Space 1979, which, let's face it, has the best intro music in the world to any TV show ever. In fact, I am going to do a video coming up soon where I'm just going to rip on it for a product review, just because I love the whole. I might have that as my theme tune music. Now, this is in space. Roll the clip and see if you can pick
number
up
2.
Number 2. Roll number 2 and. Spot the point that I'm annoyed at. So they're talking in a room here. Oh, that's actually right. So they're in space. Can you see a problem here?
What is gravity?
Yes. So
is that it? Is that your beef?
No, because it gets better than that. Could you roll? Let me just double check. Could you roll number 3? For me, please.
What they were doing in that last scene, if you're listening to this, by the way, is they were cleaning their guns and they were using, and nothing was floating around.
All the cloths are pointing downwards and moving as if it was in Earth's gravity. Could you roll number 3? So now we've got the scientist guy, and he's using a spanner to pick up soil with, again, no gravity and in real time. It's stuff like this, Carl, that actually gives me a bit of I have to go and get my blood pressure taken.
Is this seriously what? Okay, fair enough.
Could you roll clip number 4 and spot? No, this is what pushed me over the edge. I could forgive all that, they haven't got the budget to do high wiring, but the next 2 clips. So the next clip, just watch how she walks to the room. Just watch how she walks. So there we are.
So she does kind of do a bounce as if they were in
when you're a kid
low
and you
gravity.
To be in space.
Well, remember there is gravity on the moon, just not much of it, not compared to us anyway.
All right, okay. So let me just cue up my clip here. Now, watch this next shot. Don't look at the 2 people in the front.
Okay.
Look at the 2 people. Actually, look at the people in front, and then look at the person behind them, and tell me that does not remind you of when you were a kid pretending to be spacemen. Roll that clip.
But okay, so it's a group of people bouncing along the moon surface, and it's.
Look at it. It's like you got the 2 at the front. You got to on wires.
Yeah, or slow down, or something like that. I mean,
the people in the back, they're not even making an effort. And that's when I really sort of went, oh God, I know you can't have all the special effects.
It's a comedy, Mark. It's a comedy. On Netflix.
Space 1979 even got it right. 18 years ago, they went, you know what? We haven't got much of a budget. There's no Netflix, but you know what we can do is it's like they just went, space scene.
See,
okay.
now, if this was a historical study, like something like, Apollo 13, where they'd sort of dramatized actual events, I would be disappointed if we saw stuff like that. But as it's a comedy about Space Force, I don't particularly.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse for stuff like when you're using a spanner and you see the
Precisely. And why are they using the spanner?
Because they haven't got any tools on the spaceship. You could use that, or you could go and get a boot or a spare boot or any one of the boxes that they have on the scene. Using a spanner.
The point was, it was so rushed and underfunded that they didn't have the proper stuff. That's
what
the
are we
point.
talking about?
That's
production
the
values here, or the actual space program?
The program, supposedly. They only had like 40 billion or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it's nothing.
Well, you know me, Carl. This is how much it wound me up that I went
So you don't care about the characters, the plot, or anything like that, character development, arcs, whatnot. But the fact that people bouncing supposedly on the moon are not actually on the moon, So.
They are in that scene sitting down, their guns on the moon. And I love that because it's like you've got an intern and they've gone, right, we haven't got the money for wire gear.
Stanley Kubrick isn't around anymore, so, they obviously can't fake it. That's a joke, by the way, just in case anyone thinks I'm just...
It's like they thought, you know what, we haven't got the most special effects. I know, let's set everyone on the floor in space.
They're not in space, they're on the moon.
All right, they're on the moon. That hardly makes a difference. That's right. Yeah, because there's plenty of gravity on the moon.
On the moon, right?
You still float.
You don't float. You just do think you're a bit lighter. That's all.
And cloth motion is still like it is.
I don't know. I've never been to the moon. I watch them on ISS, but that's just floating.
You can get in contact with us via Twitter at The Watching Man.
There's gravity on the moon, Mark. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, but there's gravity on the moon, but not to the effect where you sit down like that. You never saw footage of the space capsule.
Hang on, they're not. But they're in a spaceship. They're not even in a little. What do I call them? The limp that goes down. They've got a proper ship. They walk around. You can't do that.
All right, let's take another thing. So all of a sudden we've got real-time communications, have they? In full HD.
Do you know what? I have no idea. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. I think they use lasers now, don't they, for communications? Not sure.
Possibly.
I have no idea. I know they probably don't bounce it off Australia anymore, but But I have no idea. We haven't been to the moon in God knows how long.
I wonder why that is. Maybe we never went because the Earth is flat. And
so you're getting into that dangerous territory again. Stop it.
Hashtag at The Watching Men, Flat Earth.
Actually, flat Earth is... It's never... See, there's some conspiracy theories you can never prove because it's like conjecture and it's like, did this happen and you'll never be... But the flat Earth... I've never understood why people, they don't just charter a plane and fly in a straight line. You could find it. I mean, you get enough people together, you could charter a plane and just fly straight and see if the ground stops being there at some point.
I took my hat off to the flat earther who bought a steam-powered rocket. So I thought, there is a man who is the symbolisation of flat earthers thinking, you know what's a good propulsion to get me to out of orbit? Steam.
Well,
just think of all the brews he could have made.
Anyway. So, what is your overall rating for Space Force?
I'll give it a 6 3/4.
Yeah, really. I'll give it about a 7 or 8. I think.
I'm giving it 3/4 because I felt it was, to me, it felt like 3 distinct. I know it's only 10 episodes. Was it 10 episodes? It felt like there were 3 lots of writers, 3 lots of writers, 3 lots of writers. It felt the narrative the character development sort of went like that, ramped up, ramped down, and it wasn't bad. I can't say it was good, but I didn't. But I rattled through it in 2 days. So if they'd put a bit more effort into special effects, I would have given it a 7 and a bit.
Well, that's the point. I watched it in two sessions, so I always consider that it must have been quite good. If it continuously held and I would have done it in one. I just started like fairly late in the evening. The first session I started watching it, but yeah, I mean, I was engrossed, and I wanted to see what happened in the next episode. And I like the characters. I certainly like the Steve Carell character and the John Malkovich character, and some of the other characters in the background as well. Some I thought could end up quite annoying, but they turned out not to be. So yeah,
and we got to see the return of John Ralphio from Parks and Rec.
And it's got some like what we'll call like woke things in it, but not in the way that certain other films sort of ram them down your throat, and it's perfectly acceptable. This is what I mean. You don't have to have these massive written up about agendas without saying, "Oh, look at how wonderful this thing." Just do it and move on. It's done. It's
and now we have been going for half an hour, so we've got a choice to make. Do we stop here?
Snowpiercer, because I'm only like 2 or 3 in, so. Because it's coming out, unlike Space Force that came out all in one go because it was Netflix's show. Snowpiercer, at least here in the UK, is on Netflix, and it's coming out once a week. Because I think in the States, I think it might be on HBO, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so they don't actually own the show; they're just showing it for us.
Oh, okay, right. That explains the cliffhanger. Because I watched all 4 last night, and I've made notes. So
there's more than that to come. There's more coming, I think. So,
well, it did end on a cliffhanger. Now we'll be going for half an hour, so we can or we can split the show into 2, and we've got 2 shows for the week.
No, we can do Snowpiercer. We can come back to it because, like I say, we're at the start, so I'm quite prepared to talk about it because I have no idea where it's going.
I've watched it all, and I've made notes. And you know what happens when I've made notes.
Yeah.
So the premise of Snowpiercer is that the planet got a bit hot, and in our infinite wisdom as humans, we shot things into the atmosphere to try and cool things down, and we gave ourselves an eternal Arctic winter of about a minus 170 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that. There's a chap whose name I've forgotten, he watched it last night, has built a train which runs on perpetual motion energy. So you've got to give a little bit of suspense for that. And the train was designed for people who have got lots and lots of money, are rich in status. It's 1,001 cars long. And the idea was that those who are rich and famous, they don't mention any scientists, by the way, which is interesting to start off with, boarded the train. And as it was being boarded, the last sort of tail end carriages got boarded by people who just raided the train station, which I have a big problem with that scene, but I'm going to let that go. And the people in the back of the train, it goes from the back of the train up, and the further you go up the train, the higher the class. And that's basically it. So you've got all the people in the back who are, they've got no clothes. Well, they've got clothes, they've got no money, no food. They're reliant on what they've been given from the front of the train. They sort of like go, well, we don't want to be any second-class citizens, third-class citizens. They try and then move up through the train and do a bit of rebellion. If you've seen the film Snowpiercer, it starts off similar, but then takes a nice divergence. But whereas Space Force progressed it nicely, this seemed to really want to rush quite a few elements. So you've seen episodes 1 and 2. So we'll start with episode 1. We get on the introduction to the characters. I thought that was all right. What did you think about so we'll go from episode. What do you think of episode 1?
Well, because it's based on a movie, I was waiting to see how they differentiate it. Because obviously, a 2 hour length movie can't be stretched out really into, I think it's 10 episodes. I'm not sure how many is total. So I was waiting to see what would happen, and it starts off following it quite, loyally to the movie. But it's, as you say, it soon takes a turn because they have to introduce a detective now. Because now it's a whodunit as well going on. So,
Yeah,
you've
I
you've
see
got
why they did that.
yeah, of course. I need a narrative. I need a person to allow the viewer to explore the train and the comings and goings of the train and how the train works, which is complete nonsense because the whole premise is nonsense, and that's fine on a movie because you go, okay, this is the world which we're going to inhabit for 2 hours or whatever it is. When it comes to a TV series, you can do the same, but it's after a while you have enough time to ask questions, and that's where it might fall apart in the long run, because they are obviously making. I mean, it's a statement, isn't it? Like you say, the down underclass are at the back of the train, and the wealthy elite are at the front, and somewhere in the middle is the middle class and the work, the basic class, and it's like, oh, they're trying to get up the train, and other people are. It's a nonsense.
It is. I mean, at least they haven't shoehorned Brexit
And
into it. So
all the rich people are evil and self-centered, and only think of themselves. And we hear they're doing a revolt back in the the Taily, as they're calling it, the tailors or something like that.
Yeah,
and
that's not a good word. That doesn't. It's not a good slang word. It's like, well, what can we call them? What can we call them?
So you're getting scenes where the people at the back are being mistreated and violently handled and stuff. Meanwhile, the rich are saying, "Oh, I don't like the way she dressed when she came to the pool the other day." You just think,
there's some shocking. I've got some scenes to rip apart, but you haven't caught up with that. But yeah, it was for a train that's 1,001 cars long,
which is stupid anyway.
It doesn't seem to take them very long to go from first class to back to the tail, does it?
Well, they've got a train within the train underneath.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. That's.
Well, how much space is that actually using up then to run a train through the train? Surely that's a big chunk space, and it's only one rail, so it's 1,000 cars. This is the problem. This is the problem when you start to question the idea. In 2 hours movies, you haven't got enough time, but because it's preposterous. There's like cars. There's cars that have they're basically an aquarium because they keep sea life to be eaten and things like this. So it's and supposedly the world froze over so quickly that caught everyone unaware. But they had enough time to build a train line that goes around the globe. Yeah. How on earth did you do that? We can't even build a train line across London.
You can't even get a bypass built here without going, no, there's one type of plant that we've seen once in a millennia, but if we build that bypass, which would help everyone out for generations and decades to come, no, can't build it because we saw that one plant. And I'm not an eco-terrorist, by the way, or whatever.
You sure with that hat? Because he looked like one.
I am waiting for the day I can get a haircut. It's summer. I've got to stick with this now because this is now my gimmick. I'm not like you. I mean, my hairline goes all the way back, so this is now me living my midlife crisis. The problem with season 1 is I liked Jennifer Connelly. I think she is that sort of being in control and being that sort of matriarch of the train was good. Her sidekick, though, who I don't even know her name.
Is this the blonde lady?
Yes. I thought they missed a classic casting opportunity then. The evil doctor in Doctor Who, Missy. Is that right, Missy?
Yep.
She would have been perfect in that role. Absolutely perfect. Because every time I'm watching her come on screen, I'm thinking that should just be Missy. Spoiler time. If you don't want a spoiler, we shouldn't have seen the front of the car. I think to talk about it and to build it up and to sort of tease it and go, or see her go into the door or have a bit of suspense. I think that should have been held off. I think that was way too quick and way too soon. It didn't really prove anything. It's like, what was the point? They could have held that off and go, let us see behind the door. Let us see what the magic is. Let us see. Because you build it up in your head. It's like there's tons of engineers and programmers and operators and weather people and stuff like that. And instead, she goes to her room, lets her hair down, throws on a hoodie, and goes into the driving room and then starts driving the train. And you just think, you could have held off on this. And the thing is, as you go along, they do this time after time. It reeks of one of those episodes where they're going, right, you know what? We might have a second series, so let's get it all out of the way now. My ninth was did you notice one of your lot in that show, Carl? Soccer guy?
What?
Soccer guy.
What are you talking about, soccer guy?
You know, they go, one of the bodyguards who is with Till. Like proper Cockney. And then he goes from being proper Cockney to being Australian. And he's got and I was thinking of you while watching this, I'm thinking, I've got to mention this. The guy's going, all right, you better watch your step. He's one step away from saying, you better watch your step, geezer.
Well, I say you have to portray some people in these things.
But he's the only one that sort of
dumb ones.
it up, because the rest of the cast, up until episode 4, do it okay. So my problem with it was there, but it's like they could have slowed it down a bit. You've spent this time establishing the characters. The main Andre Layton, who's the main hero / rebellion. We meet his partner, and he's got a kid, and so we know what. So there's that thing of wanting to look after them. Now, the scene in the swimming pool.
I haven't seen this scene.
What, in episode 1? Where she goes? Oh no, in the aquarium. Sorry.
Right. Okay.
This is a slight spoiler moving forward. Expect at least one extremely shoehorned shot of a naked person, normally the women, that is just shot just above the nipple line.
The diving.
In every single scene.
The sea diving thing.
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah. Sorry, I understand.
So one of the characters is going swimming
because a body of water on a perpetually moving train that wouldn't destabilize it at all. That's what I'm saying.
But it was a fact that
it wouldn't be heavy at all, I'm sure.
And then it's the shoehorning in of you watch the next few episodes, and you can almost time it to the point, and they're gonna have a sex scene. Oh, they waited 3 more minutes just to get it. It's so shoehorned.
Well, I skipped that. I skip. I don't care.
I
always skip them bits. I don't care. I don't find titillating or anything. I just whatever. Yeah. Okay. You choose about sex. Great.
Coming on to back to the story, we've got Andre Layton is teamed up with the guard, who turns out to be rough and really hard. And, he's from third class, he's from the tail end. Those two wacky characters aren't going to mix. Initially she hates him, but then...
What, the buddy cop setup, you mean?
That's the one, and that's exactly what I wrote. The buddy cop scenario. I wrote, suddenly, guard woman is all
exact opposites.
And it was in the second episode, so there's no sort of... Well, I'll give you a bit of a chance. It's like one guy makes a comment to him about being from the tail end, and suddenly she's decking him after 7 years of hating everyone in the tail train. And he just thinks, what's happened to pacing?
Well, it's not only that, is it? Because there's a murder, obviously, which they're investigating, which is the whole reason why they pulled him out and got him on, because he's a detective. He's a former detective. Because they find a body that's had their limbs removed and a piece of their more private parts removed. And he goes, and everyone's looking at this like, oh, what could this mean? What could this mean? And he takes a look at it and he goes, well, who's got knives on the train? And they hadn't thought of that.
And then, by the way, his partner was a cop training to be in homicide. So let that stick in.
Homicide.
Now, and then, another subplot is that he's trying to find... So the reason that he took this detective case was to feed back stuff like, layouts and switches and routes and all
For
the
the
things
rebellion.
that sort of escape from the bag. Now, it's been a while since I've been on a train, but I would imagine if you're on a guard patrol route and you're walking up and down a corridor, now to get stuff back to the tail end carriage, he spots one of his fellow rebels, Scum. It makes eye contact, that's all we know. So what he's done is to get some information back to the tail end. He escapes out of his prison cell by having a piece of wire from a bit of investigation. Okay, that's fine. He then scribbles what looks like the Illuminati eye on the floor, drops a bit of cloth, and by the way, the pen that he's had was shoved up his bum. That was a nice little plot point for to squeeze that one out. And I'm thinking, literally. I don't want to be the person who's spotting plot points. If I was a guard, I'd think, blimey. If I go into a hotel and I'm walking down a corridor, I can spot a stain on that carpet 100 feet away, let alone walking down the same corridor in a narrow train done for every day. And then not far down from it, there's a piece of denim.
It's a dumb plot point because they need to figure out a way to get him to send messages back to the tail end of the cars, and that's it.
Why not put someone right now? I've just thought of this. Have a bit of this one. Why not write a message, stick it up his bum, wait till he goes to the correct toilet, where
what's this fixation you've got?
Hang on, where a lot of his colleagues work in sanitation, so they would know the flow of the pipes.
That's disgusting.
What, like pulling a pen out your ass is so right.
Well.
And it wasn't even and you know what got me about that scene? It wasn't like a booker's pen where it's like about yay high. This is a proper fountain tip job.
Anyway, right? It's strange enough, it's got many faults, this show, for its simplistic depiction of class warfare or things like this. Very simplistic, like all rich people bad, poor people good. There's no difference. But I am intrigued by the story only because they've taken a diversion from the movie storyline and they're doing something different with it, and I don't know where it's going yet. So they've sort of got me because I can't work out exactly where the plot's taken me. Granted, I've only watched 2 of them so far. I'm going to watch the 3rd one this evening. So at the moment, I'm still going to continue to view it because I don't know where it's going. And there's a possibility for them to get clever with some ideas here. Okay, right. Okay, you're ahead of me, so I can't really judge. But
I don't want to dash.
That's fair enough.
I shouldn't be a dream dash. I should let you. It's not bad. It's not bad. And the thing is, they get to a point where it's got promise. And you get to the point that I want my mind to be stretched a little bit, like going, hang on, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? And that does happen in episode 4 for about 2 minutes. And then
it's a sci-fi show. It's a sci-fi show. And I've had my hopes of sci-fi dashed so often recently that I want something good to come finally. And I don't care. There's a heavy political ramifications within this storyline, but that was in the original film, so that's fine.
That dies off a bit. I will say that dies off a bit. It's like they've got 2 writers, and sometimes they go, "Oh, you know what? We'll let the intern do this bit."
It never made sense to me because they've got the people at the back that, like you say, that they snuck onto the train or they fought their way onto the train, and I just thought, well, if you're that bothered by them, just pull the cart connector and
don't feed them. Bin them off.
Feed them. Well, yeah, I mean, if that's the case, what does it matter? I mean, there's what is it? They say there's 4,000 people on the train or 3,000 people on the train, one or the other, and there's 1,000 carriages.
Yeah, that's about 3 people on a carriage.
So what's the problem? And I know they're saying like, oh, they use hydroponics and build their own grow their own food and things like that, which is all interesting stuff, and it's something we'd have to do if we ever go up into space somewhere. We'd have to figure out a way to feed ourselves and stuff like that. So that's all interesting and good. But there's no reason at the moment to treat these people badly at the back.
Well, think about it another way.
What? It's like the last people on Earth, as far as we know at this point in time.
But there's a bigger plot point than that. So to get onto this train, you have to have a ticket, right? Why are these last?
I got a golden ticket.
Why are these last few cars barren? They've got no furnishing.
Precisely.
No, it's like. So what am I going to do? I'm going to buy a ticket to stay in the back. The last few trains don't make sense. If they'd have said, well, the train had to leave sooner than later.
Now, on film, they explain why. There's a reason why it's set up like that. It's like all about swings and balances in society. But in reality, if you're down to that fewer people surviving, and you've all got to survive in this one ecosphere, the last thing you do is create rifts between each other. I mean, it's obviously an analogy to a much wider problem that we face every day, but it doesn't necessarily work in the context of the storytelling. I mean, they could address it later on. They just haven't really addressed it in the first 2 episodes that I've seen.
I cannot wait for you to see season 3 because there's
episode. It's not season. It's episode.
What is it? Apprentice, premise, blah blah blah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, I'm going to continue to watch it for a little while before. If I duck out, I duck out. So
I won't say I was disappointed, but there were just some things where I'm going.
Who would you say this show is made for? What would you say they'd have to be interested in to watch this?
That's a good question. I don't know if it necessarily appeals to people who've watched the film, because I think that film in itself was a bit up and down. They've changed so many things. It's sort of like, in a way, The Expanse, but on the train. I think that's a good way to put it.
But not as well written.
And at least, case in point, The Expanse got gravity right. Just saying.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. But
it's not. I would say it's not bad, but it's just some of the jumps and some of the things just felt forced. Like a lot of the. Again, I think we've had discussion before. It's like character progression taking their time. There always seems to be a rush to get somewhere, to go, aha, we've done this, and then you go, and then you've got to think, well, but I know there's 10 episodes. You know, why is it being pushed? It's always things like, whereas I think back in the olden days, you used to get shows that would build up to a climax and they'd just be cancelled. I think maybe they're so fearful of leaving open ends that they've got to. The age of leaving things slightly ambiguous, I think, might be over.
Well,
and again, think... episode 4.
Go on.
No, go on. I was just saying.
I was going to say, I think if you're into sci-fi and you enjoyed the original film and you don't mind getting your political theory from a Mr. Men book, this could be right up your alley. If you could set aside the political stuff within the context of the show, I mean, not in a wider general sense. It could be intriguing if you like detective stories. Again, it really goes back to some really old clunky storytelling, but it's okay. Like I say, there's nothing wrong with the acting. The acting's fine. The special
Jennifer
effects
Connelly's
are fine.
Brilliant in this. I would say she suits that role in. But the problem is when you hit episode 3. It drops such a massive clanger, and you think,
"Oh, okay." I'm gonna watch that tonight. So
you'll see the point where you're just going.
Do you know what? I just looked at you on the camera, and you went 3, and then you just sort of sat there looking dejected. When I looked down at the screen,
I honestly was, because there's with Jennifer Connelly's character called Melanie Cavill. Like episode 1, she's got this air of mystery. She's hard, she's to the point, she's factual, she's a bit of an ice maiden. You can tell she works in hospitality. And then I think they just sort of chucked away the character at the end of the first episode by seeing her get into a hoodie and eating a sushi while driving a train. I think there wasn't any need to show that she could be a soft character by banging her in a hoodie.
I don't know. I reckon it could be setting it up for maybe there's more to her than obviously meets the eye. And I think I know what that is, but I don't want to say it.
You need to text me after you've watched episode 3 tonight.
Oh, okay, I will. Well, I think that pretty much sums it up. Like I say, two very different shows to watch on Netflix, at least if you're in the UK. I'm not sure if they're viable over Europe, rest of Europe. But I know in the US, Space Force is on Netflix, but I believe Snowpiercer's HBO, but I could be wrong about that. So, yeah, I mean, at least it's new content. Something to watch in, if you're supposedly locked down, although that doesn't seem to be the rule anymore, depending what you think of certain things. Yeah, so
I would say this about Snowpiercer: if I could binge watch all the episodes, I would. It's just there's some points where I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to put the kettle on.
Maybe it's worth waiting until they're all done. Sometimes that is the case.
But again, I can't wait for you to because there's a couple of things. In fact, you know what? You might have to come on again, or we'll do another episode review because I've got to discuss season.
I'll have to come on again. I'm the host.
Well, yeah,
I'm one of the hosts.
Co-host.
If I come on again, I'm not the guest.
Well, I've been bloody promoting myself as co-host. Oh, bugger.
But you are co-host. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
we're the co-hosts.
I've even charged my battery up today. I keep looking at it now going...
It didn't run out this week. That's very good. So where on earth can people, our dear listeners, get hold of us? If
very
they wish
quickly,
to, Mark?
So far, what are you going to rate out of 10 for the first 2 episodes?
6.
I'll go 6.5. I was going to be generous and go to a 7, but...
Well, depending where it goes, the 6 can go up high or it can plummet. So we will see later on. I'm up to see episode 2. Mark's on episode 4. So
I've finished.
No, you've not finished. There's another episode on this week.
No, I've done up to episode 4.
But episode 5 is this Friday.
Has it actually been released in full yet? Let me go and check a completely legitimate source. Anyway, yes, whilst I'm doing that, we'd like to hear your
episode
feedback.
5, okay. Season 1, episode 5, Justice Never Boarded. Tensions between third class and third class are boiling as Melanie stages a trial. Anyway, so it's coming on. It was in America, it was on Monday, June the 15th, it's on over there.
Oh, God, we're back to the old days of waiting weekly. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, at least there's one thing. I don't mind waiting a week because it's not Picard.
And on that note, where can our dear listeners get hold of us, Mark?
On the Twitter, at watching_men. And of course, if you're on the YouTube, we would very much appreciate a like, follow, subscribe, share, click the bell, leave a comment. Try and do everything that helps the algorithm get us some views because it would be great.
And if you have seen either Space Force or Snowpiercer, either tweet us or leave a comment on the YouTube video and let us know what you thought of these particular shows, because we'd love to get some feedback and see what you guys think.
And also, for those of you listening on the podcasting platforms, you could leave, if you want to leave us a review. And a Brucey bonus, if you're listening via Anchor, you can actually leave us a bit of an audio and we will play it back, providing it's suitable and has no effing and jeffing in there on the show.
So that's pretty much it for us for another week. We'll be back next week as always. So until then, please, everybody out there, stay safe and be nice to each other. Bye.
Ta-da.